and some of the things he's doing now and has done. He is right now currently the USA Women's National Team Coach for Paralympics. He was in London this past summer after our Olympics finished, so he coaches that team. He also coaches the Roland Bobcats, which is a youth team that my son is on down in Charlotte, and that's how I've gotten to know him, one of the ways I've gotten to know him. He's the only player on the USA men's wheelchair basketball team for 4 decades. 4 decades. I haven't done anything for 4 decades, much less play basketball at a high level. He is the owner and recipient of 9 gold medals in skiing, in track and field, and in basketball. 9. He doesn't have on here as one of the things, but an amazing thing is he's the only Paralympian to win a gold medal in a summer event and a winter event of the same year. Only one, like, in the world. I know. He's also the recipient of the Magic Johnson Humanitarian Award, and he was recently honored down in Charlotte at as the My Hero Award for the Bobcats in Charlotte. That was just last month. And like I said, he's my son, LJ Yates. I call him James. His coach started LJ. But before he starts, I will tell you, last year, James is now in 6th grade, but last year, some of you are moms. In 5th grade, they do the Wax Museum, or at least they did at Lake Norman Elementary, right? Where what it is you pick a North Carolina famous person, and a lot of the kids pick somebody dead. My son picked Dave, Kiley. So what you do is you dress up and you memorize a speech about that person, and you have a pretend button, and all the parents come around the room and you push the button, and then they are that person. And I have it on video. It's a little loud. I was going to play it here. He memorized this man's whole life, and still has it memorized. And it is the most amazing thing to think that Dave, the best wheelchair basketball player in the world, lives in Mooresville, North Carolina, 28117 Columbia. So I'm just thrilled to have him here. He is an amazing man of God, and an amazing inspiration for me and my family and my son. And I'll let him, I may add, but I'll let him. I do like that quote I read, the poem I read.
Well, you can read that.
Okay. Because that's what it is.
That's still.
This I will read. At the end of James's speech in his wax museum, he has memorized and still does one of Dave's favorite quotes. Is it right here? Yes, it is. Gosh, and I need glasses to take. I'm still in denial on my glasses thing. Okay, y'all can hear me, right? I'm trying. All right. It's from John Wooden. It's one of Dave's favorite poems, and again, this rides through my mind because my son repeats this and now has it memorized because of the Wax Museum. This crowd on earth, they soon forget the heroes of the past. They cheer like mad until you fall, and that's how long you last. But God never does forget, and in his hall of fame, inscribed up there beyond the stars, engraved you'll find your name. I'll tell you, friend, I wouldn't trade my name, however small, inscribed up there beyond the stars in that celestial hall. For any famous name on earth or glory that they share, I'd rather be an unknown here and have my name up there. Oh, awesome.
Okay. I'm humbled to be here. I had a good time with the crew last night, and Kim asked me to be a part of this. How can you refuse to be part of the miracle? So I think it's great, exactly what you guys are doing, and why you're doing it, and I love the mission, and I feel responsible to be here and do whatever I can. So before I start, I'd like to just kind of let you know that I'm just a human, and I've got character flaws and defects that I'm still working on, and you know, speakers like myself have a tendency to come across like they've got it all together, you know, and I want you to know that's not true. You know, I struggle just like everybody else, and we're more alike than we are different. You know, I just got a little bit of a resume of doing things, you know, and that doesn't really tell you who I am, you know, because it's just the stuff I did. But I think you'll get a feeling of who I am by the time we leave. And so, anyways, I was born athlete. I was gifted with athleticism, and I'm blessed and grateful for that. I, at a very young age, had a passion for play. I mean, every kid likes to play, but I was addicted to it. And you know, I ran in neighborhood Southern California gangs as a kid, neighborhood no-goods that carried bats, and but we didn't hit people with them, you know. We were athlete gangs. We ran the streets to play, and we didn't need a field. We could make it out of a driveway or a backyard or a parking lot or in the street. And you know, bats, balls, gloves, rackets, skateboards, you name it, and we did it. It was just a great way to grow up, and I'm still friends with most of those kids from the time of my youth, you know, that all became athletes in their own right and did their thing, mostly through high school, some in college, and you know, here I am, still at this mature state of my life, mature instead of old. I'm still on the front line of sport, and you know, I worked it out that I could, all my career, I could get paid to play, and so I'm grateful for that. And you know, when I look back, you know, you heard about the 4-decade thing, and you know, I look back at the footprint of my life, and you know, one thing I know that's for sure is that God chose me to be the guy that got hurt. You know, I'm a professional at hurting myself. Now, don't get crazy about that. It's all right. But you know, He never gives us more than we can handle. And in the 4th grade, I was riding my bike to school. You know, and here, this was this athlete kid, and racing my brothers to school, and I darted across the street to try to get an advantage, and a pickup truck knocked me into the next zip code, and I had a concussion and a broken arm, and I shattered all the bones in my knees. And from that point forward, I had one surgery after another, repairing the damage from that accident. And remember now that, no, I didn't tell you that, but basketball was my thing. Out of all the sports, I don't know why, but I was attracted to it, and that was my deal. And knees are pretty important in basketball. I mean, by the 8th grade, I had arthritis in my knees and was receiving cortisone shots directly into your knees. And you know, at that age, that's not too much fun, but you know, I really didn't care. I was willing to pay any price at a young age, so I got to play that sport. And so you fast forward that time through surgery after surgery, and continue to play through high school, into high school, and I became pretty good. You know, I couldn't dunk like the rest of the players that I played against. You know, I didn't have the hops because of the knees, but I really had a good game upstairs, and I knew how to win. And so I got the attention of some colleges on the West Coast, San Jose State, Gonzaga, And I was in this interim time of trying to figure out where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And at that time, my buddy and I invited the two cutest cheerleaders to go to the mountains for the day, to be in the snow. And we Big Bear sits above Los Angeles, and there is snow there, so we were just going to go up and have a good time. Well, 19 years old, and very inexperienced in a lot of ways, we made the decision to drink, and we were mixing hard liquor down below. And I think this is the craziest part, Harvey Wallbangers. What is a Harvey Wallbanger? I don't know, man, but I've never had one since. But I don't remember much from that time, because once we got to elevation, my inexperienced drinking self had got to a place where he didn't know where he was at. And so I was told we rented inner tubes. We went to an area where you could do it. It's not like inner tube park or anything where all the obstacles were clear and everything was cool. No, there were obstacles, and as fate would have it, they said I went up way higher than everybody else, which doesn't surprise me. And as I was coming down, two girls that weren't with our group were coming across diagonally the hill, and we hit, and they spun me around. They were heading into the trees themselves. They sent me into the trees, and that's where I sustained a spinal cord injury. Now, this is sounding kind of down right now, but it's really a blessing. I'm really happy with who I am, and I'm happy the fact that I did get hurt. That sounds so crazy, but you'll understand by the time I finish. Certainly it was a struggle at 19 to hear you're not going to walk again. But after a couple years of trying to go back to drugs and alcohol and trying to forget about what had just happened to me and to help it, I was making it worse. And I made a commitment to live and not to just take up space and not to worry what you thought about me. I was so worried about, what people thought, that I was lesser than, and I was very intimidated, and no ego. And so then I found out about wheelchair sports, and when I was in the rehab and they came in because I had a basketball reputation, they were on me to play wheelchair basketball, and I'm like, get the heck out of here. I play real basketball, not whatever you guys are talking about, and I had this real attitude that I was more than I was, but I had an opportunity to see these guys play, and I didn't let them see me watching because I was too proud. But when I saw it, my mouth just opened up like, oh my God, And from that point forward, the fire was relit about that aspect, and so you heard a little bit of the highlights. I had a career that was longer than anybody's. My dream as a kid was to play in the NBA. I had that from a very early age, and but yet, remember, you need knees to get into the NBA, and this is where God came in, and I didn't realize it right at first. That He was at the steering wheel, and I kept trying to take the wheel and will myself into what I wanted, with the NBA thing, and God just said, slow down, and if you can handle one more letter in that acronym, you're going to be fine, and that's the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. And so there you have it. God knew that my knees were not going to carry me to my dream. I totally believe that, and he laid it out for me to be able to excel in the way that you would if you were a professional athlete. And I've derived all the outcomes as a pro, and traveled all over the world, and you know, and in that footprint is just a drive that I can't explain. You know, I want to make a difference. I want to be the best at whatever I do. You know, and I want to help others. That came at a very early age. That you know, reaching out to help somebody else meant a lot to me. And so the other part of me is did you guys know that North Carolina has a state motto? I didn't know. Yeah, it's called Esse quam videre. It's Latin, and it means to be rather than to seem. And I was amazed. I didn't know states had mottos, but I thought that was really cool. But that, to me, that means, you know, don't be a fake, don't be a phony, be who you are. And you know, that's me. I mean, what you see is what you get. You might not always like it. You might not like always what comes out of my mouth, but you know, I'm gonna be me. And I made that commitment to myself way back, right after I got injured. You know, in life, there's just no shortcuts to getting what we really want. You know, if it's worth having, it's going to be work involved. You know, there's no excuses to keep us from going after a great life, or to whatever our goal is. You know, you just have to put work behind it. And you know, we can't let our inner voice be drowned out by the opinions of others. You know, we've got to really just put our nose to the grind and work. You know, and I just always felt like I could outwork my opponents. You know, I didn't know what on the other side of the world what the my counterparts, my competitors were doing, but I had a pretty good idea that, you know, today, there's no way they outwork me today. You know, I come away with that, or I come away with, you know, I didn't work that hard today. You know, so I had an idea, and you know, I'd shoot 1,000 shots at a time, and I would chart them, you know, for makes and misses, and I go in with a goal, you know, and I'd have it in my mind what I needed to make, you know, and I'd be disappointed if I fell short of that. So it's kind of a curse and a blessing to be driven like that. But at the same time, you know, that work ethic came from when I was a kid, and I had to recover from all those injuries. You know, and those injuries they just didn't stop. You know, I've had 5 concussions. You know, I tore the ligaments in my wrist, and this is all through sport. Tore the ligaments in my wrist, tore the labrum in my shoulder, blew up my bicep tendon, broke my ankle riding a hand cycle. I mean, I'm that guy, you know, and I'm a mother's worst nightmare, you know, let's face it. And I gotta laugh because I could get hurt from going from here to my truck, and people that know me know it's true. And I'm a bleeder, so if I get a little nick, it looks like I need to go to the ER, you know. And I wanted to kind of just give you, I've got photos up here because sometimes what I talk about, words just doesn't really describe it. But this is related to, you know, things are going well. I'm in Alta, Utah. I'm an expert skier, which only means that I take chances, and everything's going well there, and you know, things are getting you know, I'm not real good at this audio visual thing here. Things getting a little bit up in the air there, and where it always ends up. And that's a real shot, you know, that's after a concussion, and it's after I needed stitches in my lip because I should have turned and I didn't. But, you know, I can't change who I am, you know, and I still, I love risk of the sport kind. But you know, the other part that I kind of wanted to cover with you is, you know, I know who I am, and I created that definition, you know. I didn't let somebody else define who I was, and as I said, it's not about doing stuff, but you know, especially when you're newly injured, everybody is trying to figure out who you should be and what you can do and this and that, and I think the danger of that is that nobody sets the bar high enough, you know, for what your potential is, because they want you to succeed, so they're going to lay something out that you can reach out and grab, you know. And man, when I was first heard, just because of this deep voice, everybody thought I should be in radio, you know, and I'm like, no, there's not enough action in radio, it's not me, you know, but everybody had it in their mind that that's what a guy in a wheelchair could do, you know. Now it's an enlightened time, it's wide open, but then it wasn't that way, and so I think it's really key that we set the bar higher than we think we can reach, and nobody does that better than the person themselves, you know. Sometimes a mom will, you know, you can trust your mom, but even sometimes your mom may not set the bar quite high enough, you know, and I'll give you some examples of that at the end. I wanted to, you know, I am the head coach of the Women's USA wheelchair basketball team, and proud to be in that spot for the past 4 years, and the winningest team in wheelchair basketball history in the women's division, and you know, back-to-back Paralympic champions in Athens and Beijing, current world champions, current Pan American champions, and they are a crazy intelligent group. You know, I have 2 PhDs. I got an attorney that just passed the bar. I got another gal that's going to be a pharmacist. By this summer, she'll be a full-fledged pharmacist, and so I got to watch out what I say. You know, I'm wired right for the women's game because, you know, the new age male athlete, I don't have time for. You know, the women have their own baggage, and I needed to learn that. But they will do anything you ask as long as you can answer why. They are gonna want to know why, and I had to get out in front of that question. And but I've got a little clip that'll give you did a sound check, I promise. She is 16 years old and elastic, so that's the only reason she could do that. So that's my team, you know, and that was at the Paralympic Training Center down in Birmingham, Alabama. And the Paralympic Games, I'm not sure you're aware exactly what they are, you know, but they're the second largest sporting event in the world compared to the Summer Olympic Games. Now, what you saw on television with opening and closing ceremony, and you saw all the different venues, that was us 3 weeks later. Okay, so we moved from the Olympic Village into the Paralympic Village. 4,200 athletes and 72 different countries involved, and the deal about London was the fact that the first Paralympic Games were held in a town outside of London, and so they really embraced the, you know, the birthing place of the Paralympic Games to London 2012. And London was the most spectated Paralympics in history. So at opening and closing ceremonies each, it was sellout crowds, and it was 80,000 people came into the stadium to see opening and closing ceremonies. This was closing, you know, and I don't know how the Brits come up with all the crazy stuff that they do, but it was just beyond belief, the production and the presentation. You know, at this particular closing ceremony, we had Jay-Z, Rihanna, and Coldplay rock it out. It was really, really cool. So London was simply the best games of all time, and you know, if the organization will have me, you know, I'm into 2016 to go to Rio and to just stay in the game. With, you know, being in my situation doesn't make me immune from still adversity and heartbreak. You know, obviously, you know, I can still hurt myself, but you know, in 1992, I captained the USA team in Barcelona, and we were gold medalists. We beat the Dutch in the final game, and top of the world. You know, my injury was of the kind, though, that, you know, I'm not completely paralyzed. My spinal cord wasn't completely severed. It was crushed, so I still had some phone lines going through to the nerves, and so I can move a little bit. But in my left leg, which I didn't have sensation, the only thing I could feel was pain. I had chronic pain from the time I was 19 up until about 7 years ago, and never slept a night through because it would always wake me up, and it was crazy pain that sometimes would land me in the ER, you know, to get some help with pain management and all. And well, one night while in Barcelona, my coach knew I was having that pain, and he had a prescription of Darvocet and for some gout or something that he had going on, and so he gave me one, and you know, he checked the medication manual, you know, for Darvocet. It wasn't listed as a banned substance because it's actually under dextroprofoxine. It's under its pharmaceutical name. And so we're on the way home, gold medalists flying on, they put us in first class, treating us like the kings we thought we were. And have you ever had one of the pilots come out and tell you you have a phone call? if they do, it's probably not a good thing, you know. And so they hand me the phone, and I get word from the ground in Barcelona that I tested positive for a banned substance. You know, I was randomly chosen, and random was my middle name throughout my career. So I'm hearing that the fact that they're, you know, I tested, and that they're considering stripping the U.S. of its medals. And meanwhile, you know, I'm looking at my boys. They're half crazy in joy, you know, over what had happened and being in first class, and so for the next 4 years, I contended it. You know, I went to the Court of Arbitration in Lausanne, Switzerland. I fought it. You know, I had an attorney. You know, there was no intent. It wasn't performance enhancing. It was only a trace. It was 2 days before the final. You know, all this, but you know, in that sport, they caught the biggest fish they could catch, and he happened to be American. And there's a bias out there because we always won, and still my fault. Still my fault. Ignorance does not help in that case, and so I carried that. I carried that for so many years, and it wasn't until you know, the last 3 years, you know, last couple years that, you know, I finally forgave myself, you know, because there were guys on my team that was their very first gold medal. I had a whole pocket full already, you know, and this would be their one and only chance to get a gold medal. And to have it in your hands and then to have to give it back, you know, that was pretty hard, you know, that was extremely hard. And so, you know, that's that story, you know. Now there's London, and it's a new chapter, right? And how many times can a sport bring you to your knees? Well, we're down by 10 the start of the third quarter, and we're not playing that well, but we inch our way back. With 26 seconds to go, we're down by 1, and my best player fouls out of the game, and the only player I can put in to replace her is that 16-year-old that I was talking about. Her first time, you know, and it's not, she's the youngest player to ever make the USA national team. And when I called her name, she came by me, and, you know, deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, you know, really? And I'm like, she started to go by me, I go, Rosie, come here, you know, and I just put my arms around her, I said, it's gonna be all right, you know, and so she takes off, and when she left, you know, I'm watching her check in, I go, I know she's gonna take that last shot, you know, I just know it. And that's exactly what happened, you know. She puts the ball up with like, well, there was one second left. No, I take that back. She puts it up, it sits on the rim, and it falls off. One of her teammates picks it up, puts it back in, goes through, and we win the game, right? Well, 3 zebras, you know,
Zebras.
come in to confer, and they say that the shot did not beat the clock. Meanwhile, the board didn't, you know, the board lights up and the horn goes off, and none of that happened, you know, so in an instant we win the game outright, and they take it away, and we review it on video, which there's no video review at the table. And there's a full big fat second left when the ball goes through the hoop. You know, it's just blatant. And so now that's in the coach's head for the rest of his life, you know, and my players, you know. And I'm good with it until I start talking about it, and then I get twisted, you know. But that's just life, you know, and all of you know, you know your own version of adversity, you know, and if you don't, you will, you know, and it comes in so many different forms, life on life's terms. I mean, you can break your hand walking your dog, you know. It's possible. So,
Poor Sandra.
you know, but you know, that was kind of a, you know, I'm not here to bring you down. I'm here to bring you up. But that's just part of my life right there, and you know, but I love to laugh. You know, laughter to me is so cool right now. You know, and it took me a while to, not until I got older that I really appreciate, you know, a good belly laugh and the therapeutic value of laughing. You know, and while we're on the laughing subject, why'd the chicken cross the road? To show possums it was possible. Why does Snoop Dogg need an umbrella? Faux drizzle. That's so stupid. It's crazy. So, you know, and when we can throw laughter and humor at some of our situations, you know, God, it just saves you from resentment. And for me, I'm not wired real well for anger. So I got to try to protect myself. I'm a hot, Irish-tempered kind of guy at times. And, you know, like, so I've learned a coping mechanism to try to throw humor at things. And, you know, for instance, if I go into Lowe's and I'm cruising the aisleways, everybody believes I'm in their way. I am apologized to 6 times before I get out of the grocery store. And people don't mean bad by it, but they just, it's, when you're apologized to that much, you know, it's, and in the beginning, that used to really bother me, you know, and so now I laugh it off, you know, and then I work my way to the counter, and if I'm with my wife, of course I can't speak, you know, they look right at her and ask me what I want, and you know, but through her, and she's like, hey man, talk to him, you know, and or if she's not with me, then I've inherited another disability, which is deafness. You know, they influx their voice and they start pronouncing it so I can read their lips, paper or plastic. You know, it's funny to me, you know. And then I go out in the parking lot and I drive an F-150, and I park in the Blue Boys, as I call them, handicap spot, and that just sounds better to me, Blue Boys, and so a lot of times people just, they don't think of F-150 should be in that spot, you know. That I start getting looks like, you know, you dirtbag, what are you doing parking in that spot? And I'm like, I'm not even out of the truck yet, you know. But in this case, I'm cruising back to my truck, and somebody gets out of their car and in the Blue Boy next to me, and as they see me coming, you know, their eyes get in, and then a limp starts to, you know, it starts to come out, you know. And you know, it used to be that I would get up there and I would get into an engaged thing, you know, and now I just kind of, I'll get a big smile on my face and I'll just laugh, you know. And finally, in the hysterical deal is, day before yesterday, I had a person that I've recently met, but I had been with another friend of mine in a wheelchair, and he's younger, and she asked me if that was my son, and I'm like, and I just bust out, you know, I'm like, No, I don't make wheelchair babies. I'm just in a chair. It's not the same. So, and I had a good laugh with her. But people can be so crazy, and if you're not wired right, which I'm not, you better be able to laugh at it, or else you're gonna get, off at it. In 1982, myself and 5 others, climbed the tallest mountain in Texas in our wheelchairs, and it wasn't the smartest thing I ever did, but it was quite an accomplishment. One of the hardest things I'd ever done, and it took us 5 days and 6 nights to get to the top. It would take you 5 or 6 hours of a strenuous hike to get to the top, and that's what it looks like. I was just there about a month ago for the 40th anniversary of the climb. It's one of they mark it as one of the greatest accomplishments that's happened at their state park, and they made a big deal out of it for us. And the beauty's in the struggle, and we just have to be willing to struggle to find the beauty. And when I talk about who I am and all, it's not the fact that or we, 6 of us started, 3 of us made it to the top, and it's not about being at the top, we had to spend the night on that comfortable mattress of rocks, and we had specially designed wheelchairs that hauled all our own gear, our bed, our sleeping bags and ground pads and things like that. Our crew was not allowed to touch us. We had to do this all independently, and the only thing they were able to do for us was bring water up, because it weighed a lot. But the real deal of the whole thing was, again, the struggle, was the journey. You always hear it's the journey, not the destination. This is what defined us, because it was that kind of determination. When we got to places that we couldn't actually wheel and climb, we had to get out, and it was about 70 pounds of wheelchair and gear, or better, and your jaw is the strongest muscle in your body, and we put the rope in there, and then we'd scooch backwards for forever, and inch by inch we got to the top, and that's who I am. If I want something bad enough, I'm gonna put action behind it. And hope is a beautiful thing, unless it's just left there by itself. If you don't throw action at hope, it's just, I've heard it said, it's hopium, and you can smoke a big bowl of hopium and just be in the same place. You can hope you have a great marriage. You can hope you have a great life. You can hope you have a great career. But until you put action behind it and know that there's going to be work involved, it just stays as hope, and it's not as meaningful. So, all right, finally, in your case, not mine, I wanted to talk about, be the miracle, and there it is. All right, I've been involved with LJ since he, I don't know, past 4 or 5 years. And I knew LJ Yates when he was primarily and strictly in a power wheelchair. He was birthed into a family of athletes, active, and he was a great spectator, you know, but that's what he was. He watched all of his siblings have fun. Maybe you know LJ, or you know of him, or you've seen him at the Y, but you know, when LJ first started, none of us, not even his parents, had any idea of where God would take us with this child. You know, he partially sighted, you know, he has cerebral palsy, partially sighted. He's left hand dominant, the right hand's coming along, he's using it more, he's working it because he knows in wheelchair basketball you need both. And he's really working it. Well, I have never, you know, I'm driven and I put a lot of work behind what I wanted. But this kid, I can't even light a candle to his work ethic. You know, this summer he spent 6 to 8 hours a day in the gym, you know, throwing up one shot after another, and he didn't care who was playing or anything. He mixed right in, and you know, he loves 3-pointers. You know, he's out there throwing bombs all the time, and over time, you know, this partially sighted kid is honing in with an angel on that shot, and he gets really good, and he copies everything I do. You know, he knows that I charted shots, and you know, I kept track. Well, I had to write them down. He's like Rain Man. He can just compute it in his head. You know, like I made 93s, I took 120. I made 75 short shots. I mean, he just remembers it. You know, and he'll go off and he'll start talking to somebody else. You come right back, and that computer goes right back to where he was. Well, this past weekend, we were in Cary, North Carolina, and for a tournament. And LJ's played in some games, and he's been pretty good, but, you know, he's 12, and on Saturday, he scored 27 points, you know, which by itself is just mind-blowing. And then that evening, we entered him in the 3-point contest against high school kids, you know, age. You know, there's 2 divisions. There's prep for little guys, and then there's an older varsity level for, well, he makes it all the way to the final in the 3-point contest. And he's playing against this really big kid from Birmingham, Alabama, and you should have seen the pressure on that big kid's face. LJ's out there doing his little, you know, he feels no pressure whatsoever. You know, this is just basketball to him. He's done it a million times. Well, the big kid beats him, you know, but LJ had the highest score in the previous round of any of the kids. And then the next day, he wakes up in the morning, and I'm almost finished.
Tell him y'all are roommates.
I'm going to tell him.
Okay.
Thanks, Mom.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, the next morning, oh yeah, okay, so I should preface that. We do the road trip where he travels with me, and it's a big deal to him, you know. No moms, no rules, and all that kind of stuff. And we keep talking about it, you know, like I say, you know, isn't it great to not have any moms here telling us what to do? And he goes, yeah, Coach, that's the way we roll, you know. And anyway, and no disrespect, you know, it's just guys. But he wakes up telling other parents and kids in the morning having breakfast that he was going to score more than 27 points. And, you know, I'm thinking like, hey, man, just how about playing some defense for a change, you know? I know you can score, you know, but he had it in his head. And, you know, he came out, he missed a bunch of his first shots, you know, and I go, well, it's not going to happen today. You know, it's not like yesterday. That 27 was well, he pours in 32 points.
Wow.
32 points. At the end of the third quarter, we design a play. Well, it's not really a play. It's like, LJ, there's only 3 seconds left. You're going to have to hoist it up from half court. You know, and he had these little 7-year-olds coming in, setting this little wall so that nobody could get to him. And I got to witness this, you know. He hoists it up, and it hits the backboard and swishes right in from half court. Wow. And, you know, I was right underneath the basket. I saw it coming, you know, and both sides, it didn't matter if you were on the opposing team, the parents, everybody just stood up and just like was, oh my God, you know. So, you know, that's the whole deal about who we are. LJ has defined himself, you know. I get a lot of credit, which I just totally, it's not right. It's not right at all. He puts in all the work, and he's been filled with God and the Spirit ever since I've known him. He'll tell you that he loves you to delirium. You know, but he shouldn't be able to do that by out there standards, you know, because he just got too much going on, and you just can't compute it. But I've witnessed it, so, you know, in closing, I've got a creed that I kind of throw out at everybody, and it's called, I'm a soldier in the army of God. I will not get out and sell out, be pushed out, or talked out. I'm a soldier, I'm not a baby. I can never lose enough to cause me to quit. I will always come out ahead. My God has and will always provide for me. People cannot disillusion me, money cannot buy me, governments cannot silence me, disability cannot stop me, and hell cannot handle me. I am a soldier in the army of God. So I want to thank you ladies very much for the mission, you know, to be the miracle. I mean, that in itself, you know, 100 women that care, making a difference, and little things, little gifts, little gestures, like whatever is going to stack up to be a lot to some deserving charity that really is going to benefit from your efforts. So God bless you, and thanks for listening to me act.